Good afternoon. It is your girl, Queen Cole, host and creator of Light the Path podcast. And today is a bonus episode. I am having a panel discussion, and I have several great women that are going to give you their intake, their insight, their wisdom on domestic violence. I know that we talk about October being breast cancer awareness also, and we respect that, but there are not enough voices to be heard about domestic violence. Domestic violence occurs when a person consistently aims to control their partner through physical, sexual, or emotional abuse. The United States Department of Justice defines violence as a pattern of abusive behavior in any relationship that is used by one partner to gain control or maintain control over another intimate partner. And joining me on today on the panel is Katrina L. Welcome, Katrina. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you, Deborah, for having me on the show.
You're welcome. Let everybody know where they can find you at before we get started on social media.
On social media, on Facebook, it's Katrina Lokko. And on Instagram, it's at Katrina Lokko. So they can find me there on my social media sites.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Welcome to Light the Path. And next we have on the show, Tiffenny. How are you, Tiffenny? Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Deborah.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here. And let everybody know where they can find you on social media.
Sure, absolutely. They can find me on both Instagram and Facebook at Tiffenny Montique and at tiffennymontique.com.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. And we are blessed to have not one, but two Katrinas today. Today we have Katrina Katrina Chisholm here. Thank you so much for being here, Katrina. Let everybody know where they can also find you on social media.
Well, I'm on Facebook, and thank you for having me, Deborah. So Katrina Chisholm.
All right. Thank you for being here on Light the Path. And finally, last but not least, Dr. Wanda McKinley. Dr. Wanda. Can you hear us? Let's see.
Hi, I'm seeming to have like technical difficulties, so I apologize if I'm coming in and out. I don't know what's going on, but I'm just glad to, if any issues over here for some reason. But you all can find me on Facebook, or We Survivors TV show, as well as Instagram with Dr. Wanda McKinley. Hello, everyone.
All right. Well, let's dig into this because, again, like I said previously in the intro, I know we talk about cancer awareness and we're like, oh, this person is a survivor. And we really bring a lot of attention to it. But then when it comes to domestic violence, even when I was doing this show, I was sending a flyer out to some people and it was backlash. Well, it's breast cancer awareness too. And I understand that, but I feel like voices are heard a lot with survivors of cancer and things like that. But domestic violence, we sort of sweep that under the rug. And I feel like with it being October, also domestic violence awareness, that I'm going to use my platform so that way we can break the silence of what's going on and to shed some light on the situation. So first of all, Dr. Wanda, I'd like to ask you, do abusers show any potential warning signs?
Well, here's the thing with that question. It varies, just like with any abusers that actually show you up front who they really are. And then you have those that manipulate you, the situation, your family, and your friends in a way that you have no idea it's happening. Prime example. A lot of women, we love to be showered with gifts. We love to be for a man to go out and buy our outfit and be like, hey, babe, we're getting ready to go out for dinner. I bought you this outfit from head to toe, shoes, handbag. And we're like, oh, he's thoughtful. Oh, he thought about me. Oh, he knows me. But that can be his gateway to opening up that door to eventually start telling you what to wear and how to dress. And in the beginning, you thought it was him just paying attention to you and acknowledging the different things that you like, and or he's like, well, babe, I think you look good in this. And as women and men, we always want to please our significant other. So a lot of times we will agree to do some things not knowing that it is a potential warning sign, because we view it in a different manner, not knowing the individual's intentions. So yeah, some abusers, there are potential warning signs that are right in your face. And a lot of times we as women also think we can change that individual. Well, I see he's this way, but once we get to know each other, I can motivate him to maybe think differently or handle something differently. And we can't change individuals. A person has to want to change themselves in order for that person to change. We can't change them. So it just really depends on the individual, the situation, and that potential victim, because we can be in a vulnerable state when we meet somebody. A lot of times you hear a victim / survivor says, well, at that moment, I was, down, I was vulnerable, I was desperate, I needed someone to, be in my personal space, someone to be there with me. So then we'll overlook potential warning signs. So it really varies depending on the circumstance and what's going on in those people's lives.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. I like all those things that you said, because those are very well true. I mean, true to be said. Does anybody else have any other potential warning signs that you can give someone?
Definitely.
Well, I would think go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of the times, even as Wanda said, it's a lot in how they communicate with you and they talk with you and the things that they say to you. So there's a lot of warning signs in how they treat the communication process and the things that they say. So one of the really big terms that's going around lately is called gaslighting. Be very aware of when your potential abuser is gaslighting you, because they will say things like, oh, I didn't do that. Oh, I didn't say that. Oh, that's not how that went, or that's not how that happened. And they try to make it about you being the crazy one, or you seeing something else in a situation that happened that wasn't real or wasn't reality. So gaslighting is a big thing that they will do. The other thing is preventing you from spending time with your friends and family. Oh, babe, I really don't want you to go do that. I really want you to stay home with me. Oh, babe, don't go do that with her. She's really not, she's really not your friend. She really doesn't have your back. And that's all in an effort to try to potentially control you and to start separating you from your friends and your families.
Yes, thank you for saying that, Tiffany. And you know what? I just, for lack of knowledge, being ignorant, I never knew this term, gaslighting, until probably the last couple of years. I never heard of it. I never knew of it. And I mean, just very recently, I just learned the meaning and things like that. And just looking back over my life, I was like, wow, that's what that was, because there have been times where I have apologized for something, whether in a romantic relationship or even in a friendship, where it was not my fault at all, but I did take the blame for it. So Katrina L., did you also have something to say about that?
Yes, I just wanted to say, like, the God syndrome, where he's making himself your God. And I'll use an example of like most of us women who had been single for a long time, like we'll say stuff like, really be nice if we have someone to do this or to do that, or to handle this part of life. And then when he comes along, you give over your power, like, you handle that. I don't want to handle that. And so what happens is you become dependent on him totally, and he has all the power. And if his intentions is to be abusive, that's back. Now all the power is in his hands, and it's hard for you to take that back until you just really see that that's what it was in the beginning.
Codependency. Yes. Thank you for bringing that up. That is a very good point. And Katrina L., look, let me be specific, because I got two great Katrinas on here today. Katrina, why do sometimes victims return to or stay with the abusers? Why do you think that's true?
That is true, and we see it a lot. Some of them stay because depending, there is an age group. There really is an age group, and there is also some racial reasons as well. And we probably wouldn't have time to get into all that today. But as far as age group, depending on the person, a lot of times the older women will stay because they've had other older women say, "Oh, honey, he's just being a man. It just pray about it. It'll be okay. He'll change. You just having man problems right now." So a belief system is one reason why people do stay, and they think it is going to get okay and he will change. And even other women may use the example, well, I went through it too, and he doesn't do that anymore. And so people believe that, okay, he's going to change too, not realizing this man could really kill you. And another reason why people say is financial. They don't have the means, because it's like I said earlier, once you've given that power over, you don't have the means to maybe go out and get your own place or step out, especially women with children. If they don't think that they could provide for their children, they'll stay and they'll take that. So those are just two reasons why someone would really stay.
Yeah, I could definitely see, and I've heard the same things. Has anybody had any other situations why people would definitely stay into this situation? Because that's a question that victims get, like, why are you staying? Why are you taking this? I mean, because sometimes people, it's just like racism and almost like COVID. People don't believe racism exists until it happens to them. They don't believe COVID exists until it happens to them or their significant, a family member, somebody in their circle. And then it's like, oh, this thing is real. But domestic violence is real. It's alive. And we have to definitely break the silence of not talking about it, sweeping it under the rug, giving those reasons, like Katrina said, giving that advice, saying, hey, I've been through it. I mean, I want to normalize, I want us to change the narrative of that love and commitment means that you have to have a struggle. You have to go through that fighting phase and things like that. And then to get to happiness, I want to break that. I don't want that for my daughter. I don't want my daughter to say, okay, he had to fight me for this amount of time and now we're all good. It's all out of his system. No, I don't want that at all. Not at all.
Mm-mm.
Anybody else have any reasons why, or that you've heard people stay in a situation?
Accustomed to a way of life. If you're right, an abuser that can provide you with certain accoutrement that you enjoy having. You are used to a certain caliber of friendships and activities that are uniquely tied to the person that you're with. You might stay because you're afraid of, if I go, I'm going to lose my friends. I'm going to lose my social status. I'm going to lose my socioeconomic ability to move around environments. And a lot of people.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Whew. Those are some heavy ones. I think that one, I can hear that more than when people say, they're staying for the kids. That's probably the number one. But the second is your social status. We're the Huxtables. How could we have problems? How could, Cliff be drugging me? You know what I mean? I'm saying in a joking way, but it's really serious that the social status, we care about, our Instagram pictures, our family trips. We care about, it's all matching and pajama day and all that. We care about that. So it's definitely that's definitely a reason that I hear. And I think, again, I'm repeating myself, but until you've walked in that situation, you don't know what you would go through or what you would stay with because of that situation. Tiffany, let me ask you this. What is the best way to manage a transition to safety? Because, once you figure out, okay, you see warning signs, you use the reasons to stay, well, now you're at the point where you're like, I'm done. How can you manage to safety?
Yeah, it's all about the plan, right? It's all about creating the plan. So, a couple of things. A lot of people are, one, they're living in a state of fear. So they're fearful of leaving. You have to make that choice to ultimately say, now is the time. You may not be willing or ready to say now is the time in this moment, but you know it has to come. You know it's inevitable. You know that if you don't do it, it's the difference between life and death. So start to create many steps and create the plan. Some things that you can do. Put together 1 or 2 days of clothing in a nondescript bag, garbage bag, paper bag, something that doesn't look like an overnight bag, something that you can tuck away in the garage, or maybe you can tuck it in the wheel canal where you keep your spare in your car, someplace where it's out of sight. A lot of victims leave in an instant. They have absolutely nothing but the clothes on their back. So put 1 or 2 outfits away for you, your children, whoever else is there with you that needs to leave at the same time that you need to leave. Put that away in a location where you can snatch and grab and go. That's one thing. The other thing is to siphon off funds in a very nondescript way. Go open up a bank account somewhere. Don't bring your bank account information home. Do not log on online to that bank account while you're at home. Do not, let them send any of your statements to the house. Send them somewhere else. Send them to a friend's house, parent's house, somebody else's house, and then start making mini deposits into that bank account. And it can be as simple as, a lot of women are suffering from financial or economic abuse. And so they may not be allowed to have money other than the money that they get to go to the grocery store to feed the family. Well, you know what? Get your coupons out, start couponing, saving, and whatever coins you have left over, slide that into a bank account. Keep doing it over and over again until you build a little bit of a nest egg. But create the plan. You also may need to reach out and get an ally that can help and assist you, that's on standby, that's ready to come say, scoop me up ASAP. They can do a drive-by, pick you up and get you out of there. And I know a lot of people are fearful about doing that because they don't want to share that they're in a domestic violence situation. But sometimes the only way to get out of that situation is to share what you're going through. So create that plan.
Yeah, I like the way that sounds because, and that's another thing with domestic violence. Yes, we talk a lot about the physical. The emotional part, I think, is very strenuous on someone. But then the financial part, if you're only getting a certain amount, that would lead you to also want to stay because you don't have the means of leaving. You can't even get yourself together to do that. So I think those were definitely great tips for someone that needs to transition to safety, because that is the most dangerous time if you tell an abuser that you're leaving. It's very dangerous. A lot of women have been killed during a time where they've left or had a restraining order against somebody, and the person really violated them in a serious way.
Yeah.
Does anybody else?
One, don't tell them you're leaving, just leave. Right. Don't announce it, just do it. Because once you've announced it, and if you've announced it into their presence, if they're a violent person, it's one thing if they're emotionally abusive, but if they're also a very physically abusive person, they're going to react instantaneously because now you're taking away the control and power that they've always had over you. So don't announce it, just do it.
Thank you for sharing.
Deborah, I want to add about the finance. I'm having some real technical difficulties, so I don't know when I'm going to go out. But I don't see can you see me? Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to get back in, but I just wanted to add about that financial piece. Women shouldn't feel like they need to have a safety net to get out. It's important, if you can, prepare for one, but you also have to know that there are a lot of resources out here within the community that can provide you with whatever you need. A lot of safe shelters, a lot of organizations that are willing to help you get out. So you can still get out if you don't have the financial means to start putting that money away and saving.
Yeah, Katrina, can you tell us any resources that are available for victims?
I can tell you some locally where I am, but I do know there are crisis hotlines and domestic violence hotlines that you can outreach, and they will direct you to your local organizations within your community to assist you with that transition to safety.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. That's good. Does anybody else have any comments or input as far as the safety plan, transition and safety? Katrina L?
I would say really know your neighborhood, really map out a plan, check out the hiding spaces, check out areas that you can get a quick getaway, because you may have to go on foot, and you need to
Right.
know those things. Where can I hide? What is it close to? What stores am I close to? Build a relationship, even though when you're in an abusive relationship, he may not, or she, because some men are being abused, they may not allow you to make those connections in your neighborhood, but there's ways you can make those connections. Like if there's a grocery store and the people know you and they know your character, so when it's time to get away, they maybe have a room in the back of their store that you can hide at until the cops get there. I would say know your neighborhood and build those relationships in your neighborhood, because you may have to get away.
Yeah, that's a great idea. That's a great point to give out. Katrina, C, can you hear us all right?
I hear you. I just my screen just keeps going out. There it is. I can hear you, but it's making me log back in. So go ahead, Deborah, and
Okay. Yeah. I just
repeat
wanted
your
to ask
question.
you, what are the effects on children in the home with domestic violence?
Well, I mean, that's a loaded question, so I'm gonna try to sum it up as quick as I can before I have some difficulties. But you also always have to look at the child's environment. We all come from different environments, and the effects can be different for each person. We all deal with trauma things differently. What's traumatic for you may not be as traumatic for me. So when you're looking at the effects on children, you really have to look at their environment. Do they have a support system? What type of violence they were subjected to? So they could have a slew of issues from domestic violence. Can you hear me, Deborah?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so they can have many of issues, but two things that I want to point out that typically happens with children who are in domestic violence homes, they either end up with someone who abused them or they become abusers themselves. So that type of environment is very traumatic for a child. They can have all kinds of issues, substance use, mental health, PTSD. We can go on and on as to the effects of children. But the main two is they either become abusers or they end up with someone who is going to subject them to the same type of abuse.
Yeah, definitely. Anyone else have any comments about the effects on children?
Well, I'm sorry. My system has been in and out. But I do want to talk on that simply because I am a survivor of child molestation, rape, and abuse, and it's a lifetime effect on an individual. People always ask the question, "Well, when are you going to get over it?" You really never do. You learn how to deal with the emotional and personal effects that you have from the flashbacks and the memories that occur throughout your life span, period. So, and she's right. Whether sometimes you either wind up with an abuser or you become abuser, because one thing she didn't say was it's a learned behavior. And a lot of times, as a victim, you don't really realize that what you're going through is not the normalcy. It becomes your normalcy. And with that being said, with you're not realizing that what you're doing or how you're reacting is not the way you're supposed to, when it's brought to your attention, then you have to also reprogram yourself. You also have to learn how to be in society and not be in an anger or a defensive mechanism when all your life that's what you know. So when you're dealing with child abuse, it is an effect that affects a person for the rest of their lives. It affects the way you think, the way you react, the way you view people, the way you process situations. Just your whole entire life is altered because someone decided to take that your innocence from you.
Yes. I mean, it's a lifelong process. Even with any trauma that we have experienced in life, you can't just tell someone to get over it. It's just like grief. You can't tell someone how to grieve. So it's definitely a good point. This is directed at the group. Should a victim call the police? Because I can't think of the young man's name who came to the house. They had a restraining order on him. They called the police. The police ends up shooting him. If you have your phone, please make sure you turn your phone down. It's giving a little bit of feedback. So should we call the police? Should a victim call the police in a situation like this? Or should you, like Tiffany suggested, call the ally to get you out of here? Because everything that's going on with the police right now, what should we do?
That's a tough that's a tough question, because sometimes calling the police may be the only way out, right? That may be your only means of survival in that moment. And it's unfortunate that we're going through a time where so many of us don't have the confidence that the police are going to maybe just tase us, maybe just tackle us, handcuff us, and take us out of that situation. But it's life or death on both sides, right? And so you do have to weigh the odds of that. It may be that, again, snatch, grab, get out, and then call the police. Remove yourself from that situation far enough away from the abuser where maybe then the police will not react in such a harsh way. But it's life or death on both sides.
Absolutely.
And I wanna follow up with, when you do pick up that phone to call 911, please make sure that is what you want to do, because I've been on the EMS side. I've worked with paramedics and the police, and they'll tell you that is their most dangerous phone call. It's not a robbery. It's not an attempted murder. It's not none of that. It's a domestic violence call, because what happens is that victim at that moment, at that split second, I need someone to come get this person off of me. So they call 911, but then when the help comes, they change their mind. So I need anyone that's listening to this, when you pick up that phone at that moment and you dial 911, it could be your subconscious mind helping your conscious mind to get out of that situation. But when they come to help, be ready to receive it, and however that looks, because you at that moment, when it comes, we don't know what to do with it. It scares us, because let me tell you why it scares a lot of victims. Because at that moment, yes, I'm screaming for help. I need help. I'm calling the law. When the law shows up, he's looking at me or she's looking at me. When this is over, I got you. So that fear sets in. Oh my God, what did I do? Oh my God, I just needed him or her to stop. But now that someone's here to help, what are they going to do when the aftermath? So like Tiffany said, it's such a loaded question, because I would advise anyone, yes, pick up the phone and call 911. But yes, on the back end of that, you do have to be ready for what comes with making that decision to seek help.
Yes, definitely. And I know that I lived in Georgia for many years, and if in a domestic violence call, someone would if you made a domestic violence call and they came out and whoever calls says, you know what, cancel that, everything's fine, the law says that somebody has to go, because a lot of times the victim, like Wanda said, is like, no, I love this person, I care about this person, I just wanted this situation to stop. So it's like somebody is going to jail if they come out. They have to arrest someone because of the situation, because of what has happened previously where they didn't take somebody away from the situation and then someone was killed. So, Tiffany, you made a very strong point by saying it's either a life or death situation. And sometimes it is. And you got to think about, too, if somebody pushes you to the edge, they're constantly doing this to you, you may snap and you may turn it onto them and find yourself hurting them. So it is definitely a life or death situation. The final thing that I wanted to ask you, ladies, was what should we do as a society? And we'll just go around. We'll start with you, Katrina L. What can we do as a society to help?
First of all, I believe it starts from the beginning before anybody even gets into a relationship. We as parents need to really look at our lives and what we've shown our children, and we need to see if they have signs of possibly being abusers themselves or being the victim of abuse. And we need to redirect that, and we need to get them help and get them healing before they even think about getting into a relationship. Because if two people come into a relationship not healed from something, it's explosive. So the pre-healing is what needs to take place, and we need to really start being aware. And I think now with the topics being out like they are, and there's so much about domestic violence and childhood rape, I think we need to have more open conversations with our children, with our friends, with our families, and we need to be more transparent about the hurts and the healings that we've received from the past, because those are the things that tend to either let us be prey to being abused or become an abuser. So we need to really seek that healing before any relationships, any commitments are really made.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, those are great points. Thank you, Katrina. Tiffany, same question for you. What can we do as a society to help?
Yeah, definitely kind of building off of what Katrina just said, it's time out for keeping this conversation as something that is taboo. We have to identify it as the pandemic, as the wrong that it is, and address it as such. This is, again, a life or death situation. Men, women, children are dying every single day because of this. And right now, because we're also dealing with this situation with COVID, and people have been on lockdown, people are not able to do their regular routines, the cases of domestic violence and abuse have gone up astronomically. It is time out for us sitting back and pretending like this does not exist. We have to continue to keep talking about it. We have to continue to keep putting this out there in people's faces and letting them know that this is real. We have to stop pretending like we don't need personal healing, that we don't need to go talk with a counselor or talk with a spiritual coach or a guide to get help with our past hurts that we've never dealt with, because we're bringing that into our children's lives. A lot of us may not walk into domestic violence situations, but we may have grown up in a domestic violence situations, and we may not be handling our just general interactions with our children appropriately because we haven't healed. We need to really start focusing on our self-healing. Our present is our kids' past, and we have to make sure that we're setting our kids up for the best possible future.
Absolutely. Dr. Wanda, same question for you. What can we do as a society to help? Can you hear us all right?
I can.
Okay.
You hear me?
Yes.
All of what Katrina said and all of what Tiffany said, in addition to stop finger pointing, stop trying to diagnose something that you have no clue of how it affects an individual, how it affects your mental, your psyche, your everyday process, how a person that is in a domestic violence situation and or something that, and I know I was having difficulties earlier in the show, but a lot of times what we fail to realize is even though you may not be in a domestic violence situation, you may be a friend, a sister, a brother, a niece, a nephew of someone that is going to also affect you. So I think for society, we need to be educated on what domestic violence / family violence really is. We need to stop sugarcoating it, sweeping it under the rug, and saying girls will be girls and boys will be boys. We need to acknowledge it. We need not to be ashamed because it happens. And it doesn't matter what nationality, ethnicity, your background, socialites, what's in your bank account. Domestic violence is just like it's like almost like a pandemic. It's not going to say, okay, I'm going to hit this area harder or this area. It hits anybody and everybody. It affects everybody. So I think as a society, we need to be educated on what domestic violence is. It's not just somebody hitting somebody. It's not just the pushing down of somebody. It is mentally, it is verbally, it is psychologically, it is financially, it is spiritually. We need to understand what it encompasses. And a lot of times people don't. They just automatically assume the word violence with physical. Understand that someone can be in a situation and truly be lost and afraid and really do not know how to respond to that. And I think as a society, we should be open to being different. We should be open to understand that we all come from different walks of life, which means we're all going to respond to the same situation differently. And let it be okay that this person is not going to do what I would have done. Let it be okay to say, okay, your process is not my process, but I'm here to help you. I may not understand because I would have done something different. And that could be true. But at that moment, someone that needs someone's help doesn't need to hear someone say, I would have done it differently. So I just think education, support, nature, nurture, just us being human and loving one another is what society needs to do to help those that are victims and survivors, because even survivors still deal with being victimized in many different ways.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. Katrina C, can you hear us all right?
Can you hear me? I can hear you. I can see y'all. Can you see me?
Nope, but we can hear you though. So let me
Okay.
ask you.
Well, as long as you hear me, that's good enough.
Okay, yes. So let me ask you the same question that I asked the ladies is what can we do as a society to help?
I think Dr. Wanda kind of summed it up greatly, but I think as a family, sometimes families can be so judgmental. And, we as a family, when you have someone in your family who is suffering from domestic violence, stop judging, be open minded, open your heart, open your doors. Don't say why is she still with him or why is he still with her. Respect their decision, but it's going to come a point when they are ready to get out, and be there for them. So you have to stop judging people and allow them to go through their experiences, but be there for them when they do reach out for your help.
Yes, I think you ladies definitely hit the nail on the head. And one thing that I wanted to add was Katrina, I think you sort of touched on it, changing the narrative what we tell our boys and girls. Like, let's stop telling our girls when a guy is mean to you, he loves you, he likes you, he's into you. No, if he's being mean, he's being mean. That's what that means. It doesn't mean that this is the way he's showing that he likes you. So that's one thing I think we need to change the narrative. And then also how we raise our guys. Like, just because they may have seen it or lived in that, then let's let them know. Like I tell my son, don't you ever put your hands on a woman. I don't care what you've seen on TV. I don't care what the rap lyrics say. Do not ever put your hands on a woman. Get away from the situation. She hits you, she does something to you, you get angry, remove yourself from the situation. So we have to definitely change the narrative of, it got to be a struggle for love, and that, if he's being mean, that he likes you. No, that's one thing that I definitely want society to stop saying, that because it is not true. Does anybody have any final thoughts or final comments that they did not get out that they would like to before we end the broadcast?
I would like to say something that Dr. Wanda said. I think we need to make it really clear. She was talking about abuse is just not physical. So if you can kind of touch on that, Wanda, again, about the abuse not being just physical, all the types of abuse, because some people think, well, I'm not being hit, but they some other way.
Right. Well, with that, okay, for example, mental abuse. Say, example, that you love this purple dress, okay? It's purple. This month is purple. So, but you love this purple dress. But he's like, well, baby, you look better in red. Or it could be a purple suit. And she's like, well, you look better in this red suit. In your mind, you know that this is the color I want. This is what I'm comfortable in. This is what I feel my best in. But you want to appease your partner. So you purchase the red suit versus the purple suit. Those type of slight manipulations tend to eventually and gradually turn into bigger things and bigger. And for instance, when I was in my situation,
Wanda, for some reason you're breaking up a little bit before you say that. Some reason you're breaking up. Is your phone moving or something?
it wasn't. Is that better?
Yeah, for some reason it kept going in and out. And I know you're about to make a good point. I don't want us to miss it.
Okay. I was just saying that sometimes when we make mental decisions for ourselves, stick to it. Don't allow someone else to motivate you to change it. Because what happens is once the abuser begins to change your thought pattern, then your mental capacity begins to kind of sway towards, well, is it going to be okay? Is my significant other going to be okay with this decision? Let me make sure I check with them. For me, I couldn't even though I was the only one working, I couldn't buy a pack of gum without asking permission with my own money. So the mental thing happens gradually and over time, even with the sexual abuse. I've heard some women say, well, I told my husband no, but the sex still happened. Well, that's still rape. It doesn't matter if it's your husband. If a woman or a man says no and the other person still goes along with the act, it's still considered rape. So that's something else a lot of married women also need to hear. No means no. It doesn't matter. And financially, like I was explaining a minute ago, not being able to spend your money on what you choose to spend your money on. If you have to ask permission to buy just something for yourself, that is a person controlling what you do with your money. That's financial abuse. Spiritually, okay, you may like this particular church. He or she might like another particular church. You feel at home at this church. You feel at home with this Bible. You feel at home with the way you practice. But the person you with is totally against it, and or maybe don't practice. But because of their beliefs, they get you to also side with them. So then you stop going to church, or you stop going to your choice of book of praise because of the person you're with. That's spiritual abuse. Anytime someone manipulates any lane in your life, there are signs of potential abuse.
Yeah, absolutely. And y'all said some great points. The word that came to my head with that is grooming, and that can go for sexual abuse of a child, the grooming process, but then also with somebody who's a narcissist, their behavior, they're grooming you with the "I love this color" opposed to this color, or you know, I just started wearing natural fro cut hair. My ex-husband used to love long straight hair, and that's all I wore. I would wash my hair. Look, when we go, I'm gonna get your hair done. I'm like, okay. Because I was naive. I wasn't thinking like, oh, this is a grooming process, or this is a narcissistical behavior where they are controlling what I look like, because it really wasn't about me. It wasn't about Queen Cole looking great. It was about this person's wife, the presence, her social status. Tiffany mentioned about to be this way. So I definitely, that came to mind when you were talking, Wanda, is the grooming process. And when young women or young men are getting into a relationship, those are also things that we need to look at, as well as making sure that somebody's opinion is great, but if you're walking on eggshells with your significant other, that's also another sign that possibly this is a manipulative kind of behavior.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll also say something else that, I was thinking about it as Wanda was talking, is that we kind of live in this society that's an assimilation society. Like, everybody's trying to be the next Instagram model or Instagram famous or social media mogul, whatever that is. And so we're all working towards this assimilation of being something else. We're never, ever, we very rarely are teaching our children that they need to self-identify. They need to truly understand and know who they are as an individual, what they like, what they dislike, and make sure that the decisions that they're making are truly from the identity of who they are. Because if you don't know who you are, if you have no idea what you like or dislike, it's very easy for somebody else to come in and do the grooming process with you, or to gaslight you, or to cause emotional abuse or mental abuse or stress on you, because you're open and you're susceptible to whatever, because you have no idea who you are.
I wish I had my bell available. Usually on my audio, I'll have a ding, but yes, all of that. But I appreciate each of you ladies being on today, sharing your voice, not being silent about it. I know that it is a taboo thing to do, but I definitely wanted to use this platform to get out information about it and to talk about it, not only just this month, but throughout the year, throughout this time we're dealing with the pandemic, as mentioned before, and then cases are going up, and that's a sad thing, because people are spending a lot more time together. So definitely we need to get this information out, break the silence, break the taboo, break the stigma, whatever you want to call it, with concerning domestic violence. So thank you again, ladies, for being on. I appreciate your time and attention to this subject.
Thank you.
Thank you for having
Thanks,
us.
Deborah. Bye.